welcome to the installation ceremony for the 16th president of Franklin and Marshall College. You were just doing this, but I'm going to ask you to do this again. Will you please rise for the singing of the national anthem sung by Angela Lacerna, class of 2019.
Good morning. Oh, please do sit. Sorry. Thanks for asking. Or it's a grand morning, isn't it, as my mother would say. I welcome you all from near and from far to this very special occasion as we join together for the installation of Franklin and Marshall College's 16th president, Barbara K. Altmann. Welcome to our Franklin and Marshall family members, faculty, staff, students, alumni, parents, friends, and trustees. Welcome to our guests representing Lancaster and learned societies and colleges and institutions of higher education. Welcome to Barbara's husband, John Stacy, and to Barbara's family members and friends who join us in celebration today. And welcome back to our former presidents, Dick Needler with his wife Suzette, John Fry with his wife Cara, and Dan Porterfield with his wife Karen. Together, these three presidents represent 3 decades of leadership for Franklin and Marshall. Would you please stand, the three of you, to be recognized? This is what we mean by the long blue line. This is an extraordinary moment in so many different ways. It's a moment to look back on our history, a history over 230 years in the making, and to reflect on the grit and determination, the commitment to intellect and opportunity, the generosity and vision, and the trials and joys that all forged the place that is Franklin and Marshall College today. And it's a time to look forward with enthusiasm and, yes, with hope, as we embrace a new leader who will help write the next chapters in our storied history. No president can lead alone. So as we formally install Barbara Altmann as our president, I urge you to rededicate yourselves to the mission of this worthy college and support our new president and the college she now leads. Our history is a long and distinguished one, but we have only just begun. It is now my pleasure to introduce John Brovman, president of Bucknell University. Dr. Brovman became the 17th president of Bucknell University in 2010. Over the course of the last 8 years, he has led Bucknell with vision and dedication into an unprecedented era of expansion, innovation, philanthropy, and outreach. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Brovman.
Well, a grand day indeed. Thank you for gathering today on this very great and very important day in the history of Franklin and Marshall. We gather today to celebrate renewal of this great institution. We gather today to celebrate new beginnings, building on the manifold successes of the past and the many evident strengths of today. We celebrate new potential, waiting to be developed, identified, and realized. We celebrate moving from the now to the next. And we celebrate Barbara Altmann and her wonderful partner, John Stacy. Let me give you my closing thoughts first. You have chosen well. You have chosen wisely. And you have chosen a very special, authentic scholar-educator, prepared, ready, and eager to lead you forward. Now, while congratulating you and while taking great joy in being with Barbara and John and you all today, let me tell you how angry I am that you stole my provost. You stole my provost. That hurts. Great provosts are not easy to find. Now, when I told the search committee, which I co-chaired when we started to recruit our provost, that I said we wanted to find someone so strong that he or she would be recruited away to a presidency. Well, I was right, but I was hoping it was going to take more than 3 years. I was hoping for at least 5 or 6. Barbara came to our search late. I'm sure she remembers that. Really late. And she was the last to interview at the airport after 2 long days. If you've been in that situation as interviewee or interviewer, you know what that's like. Well, despite this, I can tell you, in that interview, Barbara sparkled. She sparkled. And I think everyone knew then that she was the one. Now, we're together this morning at a time when it seems as if higher education may be at a crossroads. This is neither news or new. After all, this is the 50th anniversary of the year 1968 and all that it symbolized and all that that means for our country and how inextricably wound up so many of those events were with university life and difficulties therein some 50 years ago. At the first year of Bucknell Convocation this year, I touched on this, but also reflected how in 1968 we were just a few months short of landing on the moon, and how the hopefulness of that achievement would forever remain in my mind, especially reflecting back on the then 11-year-old. Now, truth be told, they landed on the moon 4 days too early, because if they had waited 4 more days, they would have landed on my birthday, and I've never forgotten NASA for that. Having used a part of Kennedy's famous Rice University speech, quote, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard." I recently asked a group of first-year students if they had ever heard these words before. This was in a classroom. And of course, I read that text to them about 58 days ago. Well, they looked at me, and someone finally said, "Did John F. Kennedy say that?" And I said, "Yes, that's right, but have you heard these words recently?" No. It reminded me in the moment The joys and the struggles and the utter speciality of teaching students are attempts to break through their world and remind them of the past and get them to think of the future. Well, having been in the academy for 40+ years and being careful not to cry wolf, I do nonetheless think that we are at an important point in the history of higher education, and one which we cannot take lightly. I could mention just a few things that are known to all of you. This country is facing massive demographic shifts in the next 20 years. The cost of education, private, of course, and public, relative to middle-class incomes, is becoming a very significant issue for access. There is growing skepticism from the public, from the media, and the political body about what we do, how we do it, why we do it, what we choose to teach, how we choose to teach, and all the rest. Now, this is not new. George Bernard Shaw said, quote, "A fool's brain digests philosophy into folly, science into superstition, and art into pedantry. Hence, university education." And then just think of these two-word phrases that capture incredibly important concepts, incredibly difficult challenges, and think about how much more relevant and present in our life they are today than just a few years ago, especially on college campuses. Sexual assault, free speech, identity politics, academic freedom, shared governance. These have always been issues in civil life and in collegiate life, but in the last few years, you know the tenor and the tone and the urgency to deal with these sometimes intractable issues is before us like never before. I think part of being a president, and something I would ask everyone who's not reflected on this in the past, I will challenge you to reflect upon moving forward, is that an institution, and therefore all of you, and especially the president, has to deal with a multiplicity of constituencies, none of which are internally aligned, and between which there is often hostility and sometimes worse. The faculty, the students, parents, alumni, board of trustees, the town, not one of these groups is aligned in their thinking, of course, nor should they be. And between these groups, as I said, there's often great tension. That's what a president has to deal with. That's what you as an institution have to deal with. There's no escaping that hard reality. And I'm asking you to remember that today. I think one result of how difficult, frankly, the job of president has become, something else I want you to reflect upon, and I'm asking you to think deeply about. The number of provosts who are interested in becoming presidents has plummeted and is now below 1/3. The average tenure of a president was well over 8 years when I started, and is at less than 6.5 years now, just 8+ years later. The average president is growing grayer and whiter, older. All these things, I think, point to an issue for higher education. Given the high costs of changing presidents, and the cost is high to an institution, we should all reflect on why this is the case, and we should reflect on the importance of not only selecting, but as your board chair said, and we had not compared notes in advance, by supporting our presidents as they work to support the faculty and the students of the institutions they serve. One way I think about this, not in this case for Barbara's sake, but for your sake, you want these ceremonies to be rare. You want these ceremonies to be rare. Earlier I said that Barbara was ready and eager to do her job. Let me tell you very briefly, and only in part, why I think that's the case. When I reflect on leadership, thoughts I've been developing literally for 2 decades, trying to distill it down to just a few key concepts in terms of personal qualities that I look for in a leader, that I look for someone I want to work for or work with, that I hope people want to work for and find in me. Some of these things are integrity. Think about the world today. It's probably no worse than it ever was, but because of cell phone cameras and 724 news cycles, integrity is before us like never before. Authenticity. We want to work for and be led by and serve genuine human beings, not fronts, not actors or actresses, but people who say what they mean and mean what they say, who can be counted upon to give you their true thoughts, to not play games in politics, but who can be authentic to who they are, who you are, and what you want to accomplish together. I think of the word fortitude. Fortitude. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. These, again, are difficult times, and they call upon all of us to participate in propelling our institutions forward. But I can tell you from 8+ years of experience, being a president is a difficult job, and I have no bones about saying that in public. You don't want this ceremony for a very long time. Another way you think about it, should think about it, in my opinion, not again for Barbara's sake, but for your sake. You want Barbara to succeed magnificently, because if she does, you will. Charitability, seeing the best in others, seeing what's good in someone, not what's cynical or negative or what's the worst possible interpretation, but by seeing the best while not being played the fool. And grace, especially grace under fire, grace under pressure. So integrity, authenticity, fortitude, charitability, grace. These are important qualities, I think, essential qualities in a leader. And after just 3 years of working closely with her, I can tell you these are characteristics that are part of Barbara Altmann's DNA. And you will see it day by day, week by week, and year by year as you work together. So again, you have chosen well. You have chosen wisely. And you have chosen a very special, authentic, genuine scholar-educator who is prepared and eager to lead. As you work together to build the next best possible version of Franklin and Marshall, and in the best traditions of academic inquiry, I urge you to learn from one another, to ask tough questions, but to do so in a way that respects the conversation and the institution. Then you will have the best possible chance you will ever have of becoming that next best and most authentic version of yourselves as individuals and as an institution. Thank you again for this invitation, and congratulations to you, to Barbara, and to John.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce the mayor of the city of Lancaster, Deneen Sirache, who will offer greetings from the Lancaster community.
To the Board of Trustees, the faculty, staff, students, and to the Lancaster community, thank you for this opportunity to address this gathering this morning. As the second woman to serve as mayor of the city of Lancaster, I am here today to help inaugurate the first woman to serve as president of Franklin and Marshall College. In my short 10 months as mayor, I have thought a lot about connection How does our local government connect to its residents, its businesses, educational institutions? How do the real and perceived boundaries, geographical, socioeconomic, cultural, even in a city of just 7 square miles, foster or limit our connection with one another? How do we do better at making connections and building community? It seems to me that we have reached a tipping point in American society. As a culture, we are radically reevaluating the roles of our institutions and the power that they exert in making connections or impeding them. In ways both positive and negative, we have begun to reject the idea that the best ideas flow from the top down. We've been forced to reckon with the fact that our institutions have too often benefited at the expense of many, and that to have spoken in one authoritative voice, many stories have been silenced, that the opportunity to connect has been missed. I believe that to pass that tipping point of this moment to connection and belonging, we have to form an inclusive vision of who and what we are. If the path of making those connections lacks the elegance, the quick soundbite, the smoothness of top-down, so be it. We must live in the tension. We didn't compare notes. The tension is where the work happens, where creativity, problem solving, and magic can happen. So at this moment, I can think of no one better to weave together the strands of the Franklin and Marshall community with the city of Lancaster than its new president. Dr. Altmann understands the singularity of this moment in her institutions and our city's history together. She understands those tensions and the opportunity to go beyond coexisting in the same zip code to a richer, more connected community in which F&M as an institution is integrated into the narrative of our city and our community. I have little doubt, after spending time with Dr. Altmann since she began her time here in Lancaster in August, that her ability to dig into the complexity, the dynamic and nonlinear ways in which the connections form and magic happens, that will serve F&M and the city of Lancaster to its mutual benefit. I feel that I've gained a sister in the struggle in working through those tensions and making those connections. And I'm really looking forward to the work ahead, both with Dr. Altmann and the entirety of the F&M community and the students that you all serve. So thank you for this opportunity to be here today, to join in the celebration of welcoming Dr. Altmann, and to many, many conversations to come. Thank you.
And now I'd like to welcome to the podium Jack Schilling, class of 1989, President of the Alumni Association Board, who will offer greetings from the Alumni Association. Jack?
Thank you, Sue. Good morning. As president of the Franklin and Marshall College Alumni Association, I bring greetings from the more than 27,000 alumni who join with us in celebrating this important milestone in our collective history. Although our alumni extend to all parts of the globe and work in every imaginable field, we are united in the respect we share for this great college and the educational gift we have received as its alumni. To you, President Altmann, we pledge our energy and enthusiasm as we work together to enhance this college and its national renown. While the past is a unifying link for all alumni, our greatest strength lies in our shared future. In particular, I want you to know that the members of the Alumni Board gathered here today will help lead the charge on behalf of our great college. We stand ready to meet the challenges of that future, working as Franklin and Marshall alumni always have worked, with the abilities and the confidence that are the essence of the Franklin and Marshall experience. We also pledge ourselves to meet the demands that this great world places before us. A Franklin and Marshall education is designed to help each and every graduate appreciate their relationship to the natural, social, and cultural worlds in which they live. President Altmann, with your leadership, the Franklin and Marshall alumni community will become an even more powerful force on behalf of this college and the world we live in. When the call to action comes, we will be ready. We offer you and all who work with you every hope for success in the years ahead. And to echo the comments of the colleagues before me, we are just so truly grateful to have you here with us. Thank you.
And now, speaking on behalf of the faculty is Barbara Nimmersheim, Associate Professor of English and Secretary of the Faculty.
We are a faculty celebrated for excellence in research, scholarship, and creative endeavors. We are also deeply committed to liberal arts education, committed to finding innovative ways to teach our students to read and write and think critically, committed to deepening their aesthetic sensibilities and giving them new ways of knowing, committed to inspiring mastery of new fields and creative problem solving. We offer the opportunity for serious personalized learning in our classrooms, in our offices, in labs, libraries, studios, field sites, theaters, even the local community. We are dedicated advisors and mentors. We are also self-governing and proud of our service to the college and beyond. This is the faculty you are joining. This is the faculty that is excited to welcome you. A woman, who shares our values, a woman who is deeply committed to liberal arts education. Barbara Altmann, an effective and thoughtful administrator, is also the epitome of a teacher scholar. Her teaching has been recognized with multiple awards for both excellence and innovation. Dr. Altmann's scholarship on French medieval literature is abundant. In addition to close readings of late medieval authors, her publications include approaches to teaching the intertextuality of these works to undergraduates. Even in her own scholarship, she desires to educate. Barbara Altmann is truly a champion of the liberal arts and liberal arts education, and we look forward to working together to pursue our shared ideals. On behalf of the faculty, I congratulate President Altmann on her inauguration as the 16th president of Franklin and Marshall College. We are very happy to welcome you here now and to welcome your leadership in what comes next. Thank you for choosing, thank you for choosing F&M.
It's my pleasure to introduce Julie Carrick, class of 1981, and Director of Admission, who will bring us greetings on behalf of the professional staff of the college.
Good morning. I have the distinct honor of bringing greetings from the college's more than 700 professional staff members as we celebrate this monumental day. The professional staff spans a wide variety of offices and roles, but we share a unified goal: to create a community that instills a genuine and enduring love of learning. We know President Altmann shares in our commitment to this mission. Her presidency, like all those who came before her, will be marked by exemplary leadership and unprecedented contributions to F&M, in both its roles as a renowned liberal arts college and an incredible workplace. To you, President Altmann, the professional staff pledges our enthusiastic commitment to enhance the college for the students in our care now and the future generations of students to come. We commit to provide outstanding service and leadership to our students, prospective students, faculty, trustees, alumni, and all F&M constituencies in support of the college's strategies. Together, we stand forever confident in the value of the Franklin and Marshall College experience and in your leadership as the college progresses into new realms of excellence. We are so excited for what's to come next. On behalf of the professional staff, I extend congratulations to President Altmann and her family on her inauguration as the 16th president of Franklin and Marshall College.
Bonnie Sullivan, Vice President of the Diplomatic Congress, will now bring us greetings on behalf of the students.
On behalf of the current 2,283 students of Franklin and Marshall College, I would like to welcome you to this institution and to the inauguration of our 16th president, Barbara K. Altmann. It is an exciting time to be a student at F&M, and if you asked any of us about our favorite aspect of campus, undoubtedly you will hear a variety of answers. From doing research independently or collaboratively with a professor, to playing on a sports team or leading one of our numerous clubs or student organizations on campus, the opportunities are plentiful and are just waiting to be seized by each student. These opportunities, coupled with a dedicated and engaging faculty, truly distinguish F&M as an exciting place to live and learn. But perhaps the most unique aspect of student life at Franklin and Marshall, and something that stood out to me as a prospective student touring the college, is the time and attention given to students at every level of the college. In the fall of 2017, after Hurricane Harvey devastated my hometown of Houston, both Dr. Porterfield and Dean Hazlett reached out to me personally to see if there was anything the college could support for myself or for my family. It was in that moment that I realized that F&M was truly invested in me at every level and in every way. So although saddened to see the ice cream fridge leave the president's office, Dr. Altmann's continuous of open office hours shows the enduring legacy of a college that is truly invested in its students and deeply interested in what they have to offer. I've already seen her around campus, at Blue Line, at lectures, and in meetings with fellow student government leaders, and it is clear to me that she is interested in learning more about our community, and perhaps more importantly, about us. So on behalf of the students, I congratulate President Altmann and her entire family on her inauguration as the 16th president of Franklin and Marshall College. The student body pledges their full support in achieving the aspirations of the college, and this collective commitment of the faculty, students, alumni, and trustees will allow President Altmann to lead this institution to the next level. Her energy, enthusiasm, and leadership are necessary to build off of our notable 231-year history and continue our excellence into the years ahead. Thank you.
Tricking me all this time to say, ooh, yeah, I'm slow, yeah, so it's tricking me all this time to say, girl, yeah, tiptoe, yeah, and I want to acknowledge my mistake, ooh, yeah, uh-oh, yeah, and I hope that you know it's not too late, girl, put it in my pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my pocket, in my back pocket, oh, 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 and I'll put it in my pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, and I'll read it when I'm alone, alone. Do you like me? Circle yes or no on this piece of paper, cause I really, really need to know. Are you gonna be my fifth grade queen? Hand it back after second hour, then I will know if you're gonna be my special flower. Ooh, girl, cause I need to know. I will put it in my pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket. Oh, oh, oh. And I'll put it in my pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my
Thank you, sweet Ophelia. And now I call forward Dan Porterfield, 15th president of the college. I have the great privilege of sharing with you all that the atrium space in the Steinman College Center has been renamed the Daniel R. Porterfield Atrium in honor of Dr. P, as he's known to all of his students. Dan's unwavering commitment to our students was the trademark of his presidency, and so I cannot imagine a more fitting location to carry his name than the College Center Atrium, which is in so many ways the very heart of student life on campus. This new name will forever signify the indelible impact Dan has made on this college. Dan, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I present you with this gift plaque. And now I call forward Trustee Eric Knoll, a member of the class of 1983, father of a 2009 F&M graduate, and chair of the Presidential Search Committee.
The most important role of the Board of Trustees is to select a president. After President Porterfield announced his decision to step down, the trustees selected a search committee comprised of trustees, faculty, students, administrators, and staff to help them in this vital task. I should like to acknowledge the tremendous dedication that they all served and gave of the search committee. Thank you. Chair Washburn, as you know, the search committee was charged with finding the best possible candidate to lead Franklin and Marshall. I believe we fully completed our charge and proudly present Barbara K. Altmann to you today.
Barbara Altmann, would you please join us at the lectern? Barbara K. Altmann, by virtue of the authority vested in me as chair of the Board of Trustees, I declare you to be the 16th president of Franklin and Marshall College. Please accept this insignia of your office. Wear it with all of our faith in your guidance of this great college.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. It's not for nothing that my siblings always called me Waterworks, so I may tear up on occasion. It's a little overwhelming. I'm honored, I'm deeply honored to stand before you this morning in the company of colleagues, trustees, faculty, students, alumni, family, members of the community, and friends from near and far. My thanks to you all for attending this ceremony, which speaks to the power and the presence of Franklin and Marshall College more than to any one individual, including me. Thank you to all who have offered greetings from our many F&M constituencies, from our sister institutions, and from the vibrant city of Lancaster. in which Franklin and Marshall is fortunate enough to find its home. Thank you to our student performers. We wanted to show them off. They are the best part of us. Thank you to our musicians. Thank you to our singers. Thank you to our wonderful student body. Thank you to my former boss, mentor, and dear friend, John Bravman. When he hired, well, you'll hear the same story twice, and no surprise, we worked together very intensively for 3 years. When he hired me as his provost, he said with great generosity that he would teach me everything I needed to know in case I, too, wanted to be a president myself someday. Neither of us could have anticipated that I would be quite such a fast learner, but surely the success of the student reflects on the excellence of the teacher. We have the privilege of having 4 previous F&M presidents present with us today. In the front row, I believe, we have Presidents Dick Needler, John Fry, and Dan Porterfield, as well as, on the dais with us today, Interim President Eric Knoll. Thank you. Thank you for being here to witness this tradition. Thank you for handing over the baton. There's a lovely tradition at F&M by which an outgoing president leaves a handwritten note for the newcomer. And I have been blessed to receive 2 such communications, one from Dan and one from Eric, both of which conveyed the collaborative nature, the shared endeavor of running an institution like this one. I'm very fortunate to follow in the footsteps of these innovative leaders. President Needler brought about significant expansion of F&M's programs and facilities in the visual and the performing arts. President Fry transformed the contours and physical infrastructure of the campus by building out the Harrisburg corridor and beyond. President Porterfield brought F&M to prominence for his leadership in the American Talent Initiative, which transformed our student body and set the example for schools in our cohort. Ever devoted to his college, Interim President Eric Knoll stepped in when F&M needed him most and continues to champion F&M as a trustee. To all of you, my deep gratitude for cultivating the brilliant place and community that attracted me here. Were it not for your work, I would not be here now. What drew me to Franklin and Marshall was precisely what you and your teams made of it. Ritual and ceremony like this inauguration are important. They give us a time to pause, to consider, to re-examine our allegiances, to do honor to an institution that is meaningful to each of us in different ways. Pragmatically and symbolically, the installation of a new president is a high-stakes moment. A good deal of time and effort is required to change gears, create new working relationships, balance continuities with change and new ways of being. And of course, every president brings something different to the moment. In my case, I'm a lifelong academic, both in training and in habits of mind. In college, I was a late bloomer. It was in spring of my senior year when I finally experienced the transformative moment. I was the only student to register for a medieval French literature class. And you're laughing. The professor agreed to do an independent study. Face to face with her in her faculty office, surrounded by materials the likes of which I had never seen, I got hooked and I started to dig in. How does language work if a 3-word phrase in Old French needs 6 words to say the same thing in the modern idiom? How could medieval poets work within the rigid rules of fixed-form poetry to say something new? What is the relationship between the derivative, the conventional, and the innovative? How were the notions of individuality, personal voice, agency, the nature of genius understood when most medieval authors were anonymous? What societal constructs explain the great scarcity of identifiable pre-modern women writers? Why did a culture in which few were literate prize the written word? How does a modern printed book compare as a physical artifact with a manuscript made of precious animal hide and handwriting that required hundreds of hours of highly skilled artistic labor? What does it mean about the human condition to find emotional touchstones in 800-year-old poetry that ring true today? Why do we commonly dismiss the Middle Ages as barbaric and unsophisticated while still recycling and reappropriating medieval material in our buildings, our movies, our literature, our artwork? In one course, in one term, I went from merely a smart student to a good one and to a lifelong student. I found questions big enough, penetrating enough, interesting enough, challenging enough to think about every day with endless curiosity and passion. I found I had abilities I hadn't recognized. And while it took some years for me to give in to it completely, I got hooked on the pleasure of intellectual challenge, on the imperative of engaging in the world of ideas for our own individual and collective well-being. I was also hooked on the power of intellectual mentorship, and I wanted always to be on both sides of the desk. That sparkly engagement of the mind is what I found here at F&M. I found it in the recent graduate who told me, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I discovered what kind of law I might want to practice because I took courses in philosophy and sociology and dance. Now I know why I want to be a lawyer. I found it in faculty members who have said, I developed a new course to help out with a new curriculum, but that course led to the core ideas behind my recent research, too. I heard it from the student who said, as he headed back to the library, this is hard, but it's good. I heard it in the professor in the performing arts who said, I wanted to come here because the students are so sharp. Because of them, I'm using much better material in class. We are shaping their minds, but we're also shaping their bodies and their souls. I heard it in the custodian in one of our college houses who told me, I love these kids. They tell me what they're learning in class. I heard it in the alumni who declared, this is a real place. And I hear it in the students who insist that we keep it real, that we bring our intellectual labor to bear on real-world problems locally and far afield, and tackle the confounding problems like poverty, sexual assault, endemic racism, homophobia, environmental sustainability, migration. I heard it in the creators and performers of art, working not only for mastery, but also for meaning. That's what I came here to foster. Why wouldn't we want to provide that opportunity for this kind of education for any student game and smart enough to take it on? I take enormous pleasure from being on a college campus with others who love to think and stretch intellectually and personally. I think of myself as akin to the protagonist in a medieval text by an author I have long studied, a woman named Christine de Pizan, who wrote at the court of King Charles V of France. In a work from 1402 titled Le Chemin de Longitude, or The Book of the Path of Long Study, she recounts a dream vision in which she, the narrator, is guided on a celestial and terrestrial journey of learning. There are many remarkable agendas at work in Christine's book, not least of which is that she herself, a woman in the very masculine field of late medieval letters, assumes the role of the scholar on an intellectual journey, and her purpose for doing so is to discover what qualities would be required in an individual who could rule the world well. Now, I stand before you as living proof that majoring in something relatively obscure is no impediment to getting a real job. Why wouldn't we want to guide our best and brightest to learn to navigate the world and get ready to rule it well through any field of study that excites them? The two historical figures for whom this college is named were among those fomenting intellectual change and national identity formation in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. And the faculty first hired to teach at Franklin College were polymaths, just like Franklin himself. They were pioneers in new scientific disciplines, but they were also philosophers, theologians, linguists, and polyglots, all in the same person. We have hundreds of pithy quotations from Franklin, including on the topic of education. One of his best-known statements on education until recently decorated a banner near Shattuck Fackenthal Library. You'll know this one. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. That's a wonderful encapsulation of the teacher-mentor model that underlies our teaching philosophy and practice here on campus today. Less of John Marshall's common wisdom has been recorded in his own words, but one of his pithy opinions that I particularly like is, and which a young graduate of F&M found for me, quote, "I have always believed that national character depends more on the female part of society than is generally imagined." Our task at hand is to continue to make the case that the education students can get here at F&M is exactly what each successive generation of leaders needs to be those learned people who can wisely rule the world. We need persistently, consistently to convince our critics and demonstrate to the very best minds that for their own good, their quality of life, the quality of the communities they will lead and live in, they need to learn broadly and cultivate their curiosity. We need to demonstrate unequivocally for the many who want the proof that it will enhance their earning potential. And we need to prove by any measures we can devise that the return on investment on this kind of education is very large indeed by other measures beyond money, for the individual, for every sector of society, for every city, state, and country in the world. On our campus, good as we are, our mandate now is to avoid the temptation to hold steady, content with the impressive gains of the recent years. We need to find the balance between acquired and well-deserved confidence and the call to our own journey of perpetual learning. We must grant freedom to possibility in inquisitiveness, in resources, in spirit. Just as we have seen the very positive change in our talent, our programs, and our national stature over the last decade and more, we can anticipate new horizons, new opportunities, new challenges for our people, programs, and facilities. And we have to make the case to the outside world that that culture of possibility is far too good to turn down or refuse. If we can inculcate in our students the qualities of flexibility, curiosity, persistence, nimbleness, and the ability to tell their stories, we must remember to do the same thing as an institution. We will move forward with the confidence our past presidents have so generously bestowed upon us so that we can imagine, shape, and claim the distinction that is rightfully ours in the years to come. We are already charting the next course on this journey of perpetual discovery, and I invite you to join me. I will need you on that exhilarating and sustaining of paths. Thank you very much.
Right side up. Now, I invite you to stand and join in the singing of the Alma Mater. What did I miss? Drummers first. Oh, drummers. I got too excited.
Our first song is a welcoming song.
Thank you, Franklin and Marshall's African Drumming Ensemble. And now, I invite you to stand and join in the singing of the Alma Mater, led by Konstantina Spyropoulos, class of 2021. The words and the music can be found in your program. After the Alma Mater, please remain standing for the benediction by the Honorable Sylvester Cox, distinguished member of the class of 1980 and classmate of Trustee Art Taylor, class of '80.
Good afternoon. In the words of my esteemed classmate, Since our founding in 1787, universal power, which humans have yet to fully comprehend and which we acknowledge with many labels, has elevated the aims of this institution and those who work to fulfill them. In the period to come, through pursuit of common mission, may all who are pledged to this noble venture continue to rise and through every endeavor hold high our common values. In seeking truth, let us prefer inclusiveness, the empowerment of voices too often unheard, and collaborations of contrasts that cover the spectrum of cataloged human differences, socioeconomic, political and geographic, ability and experience, religion and race, gender and sexual orientation. Let us resolve to a pragmatism that rejects compromise when unhelpful and an idealism that yields to productivity. Let us work to assure the success of all, even when doing so adds to our burden. It's our condition that clarity comes after many trials and disappointments. Let not our failures count more than what they teach us. Let us dream even beyond reason, and if unattractive here on earth, may we have the will to carry our visions to the stars. With deep respect for and building on our glorious past, may we have the foresight to see beyond horizons, embrace change, create new opportunity, and shape the future. And now, as we leave this place, we ask the universal power to aid Barbara. May she find encouragement in moments of challenge and wisdom when faced with dilemma. May she serve with strength and lead with love. May the dual flames of compassion and hopefulness be her heat and light that warms when cold and brightens the night. Amen.
All of you for coming today and for joining in this wonderful celebration and the next chapter of the history of Franklin and Marshall College.